I'm here with Aurora. Aurora is a 3-year-old, 3.5-year-old Akita. And she had some reactivity people against humans. We set her up for success with a great little exercise outside. But she also has an anxiety and stress about the kennel. She will not eat anything in the kennel. She won't actually eat anything in the bedroom because it's in the same room as the kennel. So I'm going to go over some kennel tips here. Now, if you can see her, it's subtle, but you can see right now her mouth is open. The mouth is open is fine, but you can see that she's breathing a little heavy. Dogs that are very stressed out, well, let's see if she'll eat the crack. She does eat the crack, so it depends on what the if a dog has got cortisol, the stress hormone in their blood, it shuts down their digestive tract. So if a dog suddenly won't take a treat that you know it likes to take, could be a sign that they're overexcited. Now, in this video, we're going to go over how you can release your dog out of the kennel using a Premack and also to keep the dog calm. Now, Premack is a principle. It's named after a scientist. It means a less desirable behavior earns me a more desirable behavior. So when I come in, if I want to come to let her out, what I would do, first thing I was going to come over here and I just reach over to start, and you see she's starting to get up, which is kind of what I wanted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell her to sit. Sits. Seats. So she's not doing what I want. If I repeat the command word over and over again, it's going to water down my authority. She practices not listening to me, and she gets what she wants anyway. So that's usually an indication they're going to SIT. They kind of go to the back of the kennel. We'll see. So she's waiting. I am not going to repeat the command word, because if I do, then I'm just watering down my authority. As soon as she SITs, then I'm going to reach to start the process of letting her out. Now, I'm actually going to try to do several things in this video. Normally I do these as separate videos. Now, she's standing there. You can see now she's breathing a little bit heavier because the anxiety is kicking in a little bit. And so what I want her to do is there we go. So that sound caused her to get up. So I didn't continue opening the kennel door. I made the sound, and it could be usually a lot of signals. The first one is I walk up to the door to the kennel, the dog stands up. I tell it to sit, I wait for it to sit. When it sits, then I reach for it. Usually just reaching for it gets the dog to get up, I pull my hand back and I wait. And I tell it to sit. I tell it to sit about 3 times, like I mentioned to you off camera in the other room. Not in a row, but 3 different occurrences. The 4th time, I would just pull my hand back and wait. And as soon as she sits, then I reach for it again. So the first step is just walking up towards it. She has to stay seated. Second step is I reach for it without even touching it. Third step is I jiggle it. I'm touching it and jiggling it. Fourth step is I actually open it, but don't open the door. And then the 5th step is I actually open the door and let the dog out. Now, while I'm waiting for her to sit down, the kennel exercise I like you to do, because normally she pushes out of the kennel. The guardian who's filming this right now, she jumps up on him. Almost, so my timing has got to be really close. 2 seconds, remember. So, but she's staying seated, so I'm continuing the process. She got up, so I stopped. So really, this is operant conditioning. What I'm saying is when you do the thing that I don't want, that stops the process of me letting you go. But as soon as you do what I want, that starts the process. So Premack, a less desirable behavior, she doesn't want to sit, she wants to be escaped. But sitting causes the process of the door to open. Now, Premack would be sit and I open the door. But because she's excitable, I'm kind of combining and marrying several things together. It's kind of a custom exercise just for you guys. So you see the tail moving and all that. Again, indication of stress and anxiety. So what I would have you guys do is practice this exercise. So the only way that you're going to start the process and let her out is if she sits. And you only tell her sit maybe 3 times, and then the 4th time you just stop and wait. And if you have to, you can leave the room. But if that causes the dog to get really anxious, I might just wait here. I might take a step back further here to help her settle down. But, so that's the process, is I want her to be calm, and I want her to practice being calm in the kennel, and that's what this next exercise is going to do. Well, actually, first, let me back up. I want her to be laying down, because laying down is kind of a more subordinate position. If you're about to get mugged, you don't lay down. You don't sit down. You're ready for action. So she's standing. She's anticipating getting out. She wants to tear out here. She does not like the kennel. Most dogs don't like the kennel because the only time we put them in the kennel is we're about to abandon them. Now, no dog should ever be in a kennel for longer than 4 hours. It will release cortisol, the stress hormone, into their blood, and that makes a physical manifestation. And I've had a lot of people, no, you're wrong, my dog loves the kennel. And then like 3 months later, I heard from them, dog hates the kennel now. Well, I was telling you it was coming, but you didn't want to listen. And so that's a lot of people. We want what we want, but sometimes we have to, there we go. So this time I'm waiting for an LAY. You don't necessarily, you could do a sit or an LAY. Now she sits down. Now what have we achieved? We have a pretty calm dog right now. She's not going to come out. Normally come home, the dog's whimpering, whining, and pawing at the door. We open it up, and then we unleash that energy. So what I want you to do is practice this. Put her in the kennel, just like we did. Go in the other room, do something, come in here and practice so that she has to lay down before you, at first she has to sit before you start the process. Once she starts sitting right away, then I would go to the LAY. So you repeat the whole process, but this time she has to LAY. Now, the last stage, when I actually want to release her, when we open the door, that often causes the dog to just explode out. So what we want to do instead is we want the dog to remain in the kennel. Well, we want the dog also to practice being calm in the kennel. What I have found in my experience is that dogs don't like the kennel for two reasons. Like I said, it represents that you're about to leave, because you only put me in here when you're about to leave. So it's the only experience that I have. So you want to start practicing putting her in here when you're not leaving. So she practices being in here. The other thing dogs don't like is the closure, because you're taking away their free will. So what I do when I do this exercise is I open the door like this, and I stand right here when the door is open, but I'm blocking it with my feet. I have big clown feet, so I'm going to move my feet like this, so she can't get past. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for her to LAY. Now, hopefully we're going to achieve it on film. I had one dog, it was a boxer, it took 45 minutes before it LAY. Whoever blinks first loses. So don't blink first. Go to the bathroom before you do this. You can set your dog up for success by exercising your dog first, making sure there's no distractions, nothing stressful, and all the rest of that stuff. Now, I can tell her to SIT for this part of the exercise. I'm not specifically for a reason. If I tell her to SIT, she's following command. If she SITs on her own, that's a way of indicating to me that I feel fairly comfortable in this kennel. So what I want her to do is essentially practice being in the kennel while she's calm. So if I tell her, it doesn't signify anything. If she does it on her own, she is telling me something. Now, because this is going to be a pretty longer video, I might just do it as soon as she SITs, but what I would recommend you guys do when you do it, you stay here until she LAYs. And as soon as she LAYs, you take a giant step backwards, call her out, comes out, you give her a word that means to be released from the kennel. Vacation, holiday, fiesta, whatever you want to say. And so she understands that I have to wait in the kennel. Eventually what you do is you start, when you get to the point where you come and open the door and she just lays down, right, or you're coming to the door, she lays down, and you can open the door and she stays laying down, then we might take a step backwards. So as soon as she SITs, I'm going to take a step back. I'll show you kind of the process first. We'll see if we can achieve an LAY. But she's a young dog and she's got it full of beans. So, and make sure you're pretty good. I'm having to lean this way. I'm kind of using the kennel to brace myself, because if she escapes, she's going to try to keep on escaping, because in her mind, this is a jail cell. And if you do this right, the dog should actually like being in the kennel. So let's talk about some tips we can do for that along the way. So we can get this bully stick. We can drill a hole in the back of the bully stick and zip it to the back of the kennel very low with a zip tie. The only place I can shoot this bully stick is in the kennel. I go in the kennel when I want to, and the door is wide open. So I can leave at any time, but I can't take the bully stick with me. Another exercise, I should have done this before we do this, but we put her in here, we kind of prep for this video, is what we do in puppy class is we show the dog that we have a treat. We close it when the dog's outside, we close the kennel door. Then we start dropping the treats in the kennel with the door closed. Puppy goes around, he's like, "How do I get those treats, man? There's some good treats in there. What are you doing?" Now I'm creating a longing to want to go in there. Once they've pined on you, it's about 5 to 10 treats. Eventually the dog pines for, shows good interest, then I open the door and let her go in. And every time she's about to lick up a treat, I come up with a command word. Okoboji, boulder, hogwarts, whatever the new word that you want to use means to go into the kennel. Now again, whoever blinks first loses. So I'm adjusting myself so I'm not going to get as much of a cramp. So basically, another thing you do is every time that she goes out for a walk or whatever, this is called, I call this crack. It's freeze-dried beef liver. This is Stewart's freeze-dried beef liver. You can order it on Amazon. We call it crack because dogs feed for it. So what I would do is every time she goes out for a walk with our cameraman, maybe you leave a piece in there with the door open. So she comes in there, you guys are in the other room, you didn't tell her, she just came to look, and there's a piece of crack in there. She comes in, gets it, and leaves. So I went in the kennel, something good happened, and I left, and I did it all myself. Nobody said anything. And after a while, the dog is more likely to go back and check it again, because if we go to a restaurant and we find a $100 bill in the lobby, probably gonna go check every time we come to the lobby, look at that same spot, another $100 bill would fall down there, because we were rewarded for that. So after a while, she'll start checking out the kennel and feeling the kennel is a good place to go and having a positive association with it. Anytime she gets a new bully, well, not a bully stick, you're going to do the handheld thing that I was talking about off camera. But every time she gets a new toy, she should find it in here. So again, another reason for good things to happen. The other thing you do is you can start feeding her in here. Now, the guardian said she won't normally take treats or eat or do anything in the bedroom. So what I would do is I'd maybe start moving the snuffle mat closer and closer to here. Very progressively. That's an SIT. So maybe you put the snuffle mat where it is now for her next meal. The meal after that, it's 2 inches closer to the bedroom. At each meal, it's 2 inches closer. So it might take you 2 weeks before you get it in here. First it's in the doorway, then here and here. Then it's just sitting here. She sticks her head in, but her body doesn't have to be in there. Gradually it's here, here, here. Then she's going all the way in the kennel. She's eating her food and leaving. She gets to make all these decisions on her own. Nobody's telling her what to do. Now the last thing you can do, and I probably should have done this with her first, is what I call click for looks. And this is something that I want the guardians to do with people or dogs that she's reactive to. But basically, I just went over with Kayla, one of our trainers, who had a dog that didn't want to go in the car. So what I would do is I'd have her over here. Now, to use a clicker, you need to first prime or load the clicker, which is accomplished by you click, then you give the dog a treat. And at first, when you click for a dog this nervous, I'd probably have one of you clicking like way over there where you're in your kitchen, and that person clicks, and then this person gives a treat, and I wouldn't do it in the kennel, do it in the other room or wherever it is. So the click followed by a reward. And do that for about 10 or 15 treats. After a while, she's like, you hit that click, holy cow. That click means I'm about to get a treat. Now the click should come when the dog does the thing that you want them to do. So if I want the dog to SIT, I would tell the dog to SIT, or I lure the dog, because the dog's nose I kind of touch with a treat and start raising it up. And then usually they'll put their butt down. As soon as their butt hits the ground, I release the treat in their mouth. Well, as soon as the butt hits the ground, I would click. Then I would release the treat in their mouth. So when you use a clicker, you need to think of the three parts of it as like a sandwich. The first piece of bread, the bottom piece of bread, is telling the dog what to do. So you might lure the dog into an SIT, and then you say the word SIT as soon as, this is a new order for me, so I'm changing it up a little bit. So basically, I tell the dog to sit, the second its butt hits the ground, I click, and then I would put the treat in its mouth. That's not for changing the command words, this dog speaks German. But that's a little bit different what we went over in the lobby or in the other room is what I would do for that. So it's, you tell the dog what to do, when they do it, they get a click, and then the treat follows that. So after a while, the click means puts the dog into work mode, and they're very happy to do it. So what I do for click for looks, after I prime and load the clicker, I maybe have her over there, out on a leash, and just sit here with the clicker and some treats. Every time she looks at the kennel, I click for a look at the kennel. That's going to cause her to look away and look up at me, and then the treat comes down. So I'm going to keep doing that. So after a while, she's just going to be kind of like hanging out, click, and I get a treat. It's going to be accidental. Then it'll start happening more and more. The first anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 are accidents. After a while, it starts so I look at there and I get a treat. Well, I'm going to start looking more often. So now what happens? Looking at the thing that she doesn't like now is associated with something good and beneficial. So she has a reason to want to at least look at the kennel because that's good. We're not making her go in there. So it's a nice low level of way to do it. So you might want to do it because of how determined she is here. Mm-hmm. Now you might have to oscillate your legs back and forth a little bit. So I'll probably just sum this up because it's probably not going to be the most exciting footage watching, but you have to wait for her to do it. Now she might also do it with different amounts. With you, she might lay down in 5 minutes. For you, it might be 15 minutes or vice versa. Dogs know and they can generalize one person does better with one thing than the other. And so as soon as she so the first part of this exercise is just teaching, this video is teaching her just to stay calm while we're going through the process of opening the door. The second stage is we want to open the door and insert our feet right here. We wait. As soon as she SITs, I take a giant step backwards. Not a giant step because I don't want her to come out. And this is going to cause her to try to come out. So we would go back towards her as a way of saying no by blocking with our legs, with the doors open. So sitting, that's the pre-mac, causes the person to move away, maybe about here. And then getting up causes the person to come back here. So that's not a pre-mac. but we're teaching her to be calm in the kennel. And so at first you'll be back, and then boom. You'll do this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Eventually you'll step back, and she'll stay seated. Then you wait at that stage for her to LAY, and I'm not telling her to LAY either. As soon as she LAYs, then I call her out and give her the treat and say the release word. I can say come or whatever it is, or I can say freedom or adventure or whatever word it is I want to use that means exclusively to come out the kennel, or just come to me. Once she starts LAYing, as soon as you come in here, the next stage is to, after she LAYs, wait 1 second and then ask her to come out. And then keep on doing that. Do it maybe 3 or 4 times. And she might vocalize a little bit, that's part of the process normally. And she's protesting. And then eventually I go to 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Eventually you get to the point where she stays in here with the kennel door open till she hears that unique release word. Come. Whatever the word is. So what is our count in the video?
16 minutes.
16 minutes before she laid down. That is not too bad, I mean, for a dog that really doesn't like it. And then after that, when I throw another one, I want to give her some freebies. So she gets to go in, and see how she doesn't want to go in any further? So that's why she gets the freebie. Otherwise, she doesn't want to go in there. Yeah. A little bit faster this time. But see, she doesn't want to step in there. So you might have to do a trail of treats. There we go, we got a paw, 2 paws. But that lean tells me that she's not comfortable going in there. So you would want to really do the treat tossing until she walks all the way in there with no hesitation, her feet are underneath her. This is Aurora, and these are some kennel tricks and some kennel games you can play to help your dog learn to be calm in the kennel, as well as to teach your dog to practice relaxing and being calm inside, as well as being calm when she gets released.